shit.
That's what I'm talking about.
Wait.
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Welcome to BS, Beyond Stereotypes, a podcast about lawyers using their authentic voices to change the world.
For me, like my marginalized identity is invisible. You know, I'm gender conforming, so like most people when they encounter me aren't going to be like, oh, she's queer. Like I'm pretty gender conforming. I'm feminine presenting, and so people don't know that about me unless I reveal it. So I feel like for me, I'm kind of constantly trying to navigate whether or not for the firm I'm totally out. So they know, they've all met Chelsea, but in professional encounters outside of the firm with like clients or, anyone I email out, it's, I don't know if I'd want to signal that in my, I don't know even how I would in my signature block, but I don't know if I would want to.
Right.
Like
Well,
something that I like being able to kind of choose, which is a privilege.
Welcome to BS, Beyond Stereotypes. I'm your host, Merle Vaughn, and here to BS with me today is Carmen Chambers, whose story I find fascinating and who will no doubt inspire all of you to embrace your authenticity. Hey, Carmen, how you doing?
Hi, Merle. I'm great, and I'm so honored to be on this podcast. So thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. So let me just let folks know a little bit about who you are. Carmen is a third-year associate at the law firm Maynard, Cooper, and Gale.
I actually just started my fourth year, which is
Oh,
scary.
fourth year, you go,
So
girl.
scary.
And you're in the Birmingham, Alabama office, correct?
I am.
Okay. Carmen received her JD from Georgetown and her BA from Yale. And I have to admit that I know Carmen personally because she and my daughter, Taylor, are besties from Yale.
Oh, Taylor got me through college. She's amazing.
I think you were one of the first people she met when she went to Bulldog Days.
I think that's right. And also Taylor and I were talking recently about how the coldest we both have ever been was our first Harvard Yale game in Boston. It's like the, LA girl and the Alabama girl just like have never experienced that kind of wind and cold. I thought I was going to get frostbite.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember the photo from that still where you guys actually left and went and found
we left and got
a restaurant.
Thai food.
Yeah, Thai food.
And watched it on TV.
That's great. So the other thing I want to acknowledge is that to date, you are the youngest guest that we've had on BS. And
oh, wow.
You're, because admittedly, I think you would agree that you are a baby lawyer, right?
I am. Yes, I am.
And so how is that going for you?
I think I told you recently, I had my first trial was this year, and it was in the Southern District of Alabama, and it was actually definitely the first trial, civil jury trial in Alabama since the COVID shutdown, but it was one of the first in the country. So I was nervous for many reasons, just being like a first timer, but also I had to do everything with a mask and a face shield. So it was really nerve wracking, but it was such a great experience. And I feel like once I got up there, and there was a moment where I thought maybe litigation isn't for me because I had that knot in my stomach, but it totally dissipated as soon as I said, please state your name for the record. And everyone was really kind to me. The judge, I think, knew that it was probably my first trial. Opposing counsel was kind. So it was a great experience. But yeah, one of the things about I think about working at a mid-market law firm as opposed to working at one of the big law firms in New York is that you really are thrown in, which is great for a young attorney, but also terrifying at times. But I've loved it.
Well, and I remember seeing on Facebook because I'm also I think everybody I've interviewed I'm friends on Facebook with, but I feel like either on Instagram or Facebook I remember you posting about that trial, and didn't you win?
We did, we did. It was a great verdict, and client was happy. So it was an awesome experience to have had my first to take witnesses in a federal courtroom, but also to win felt amazing.
Awesome. Now, I was actually a little surprised when you graduated from law school and then went back to the
I
South.
know. I know.
And I mean, although I love your accent, it's so adorable.
It's coming back more. Like the longer I'm here, the more it comes out.
Yeah, so talk to us about, I mean, going to Yale for undergrad and then going to law school at Georgetown, but then deciding to return home to Alabama when you had, we know that
Yeah,
that's quite a decision to make for a lot of reasons that we'll get into, I think.
yeah,
But what
absolutely.
prompted that decision?
Well, and so Merle, also between college and law school, I was in New York for a couple years. So
Okay.
I actually think that helped me realize that I didn't want to be an attorney in New York. I was a paralegal at Jenner and Block, which was a great experience. It's a great firm. Um, but I think I knew from my experience as a para at a big law firm that I probably wanted to go to a mid market firm that had a little bit of a better work life balance. Um, and also, I knew that I wanted to eventually go to the South and be closer to my family. Like, my family, they're all in Mobile, which is about 4 hours away from Birmingham. It's on the coast of Alabama. My mom is Puerto Rican, so they call it like the Puerto Rican compound because it's all of our family connected by like little sidewalks and connects to this big patio. So I grew up with a lot of family and imagining starting my own own family somewhere far away was hard for me to imagine.
Okay.
So I wanted to be driving distance from home, but in a blue city, a city that gave me that I could see myself in. So I was looking at Nashville and Austin and Birmingham, and I really liked Birmingham, and it was the closest to home, and I care more about the state of Alabama just because I'm from here and I want to see it do better. So I wanted to come home to Alabama. It helped also that I started to date Chelsea, and I met when I was in New York, and we dated long distance at law school. So it also helps when you've already kind of found your person
Right.
to make that kind of big move leap home. So that helped to have her um, be willing to come back with me, which is honestly like the bigger mystery. Born and bred New Yorker
Yeah,
decides to leave New York.
I did find that surprising because she is from the Northeast.
Oh yeah,
And I mean, and you know, frankly, because you're a gay couple, um,
right.
it did. I was surprised. So, but that's why we do this podcast, right? So to get beyond stereotypes, to educate people on differences, and to talk about experiences, to so that people like me don't leap to conclusions that aren't
Ex-
necessarily true, right? So I didn't even know that that Birmingham is a blue city.
Oh yeah. Birmingham is a blue city. Birmingham's a black city. And I can't speak from a black person. Obviously I'm white, so I don't know what it's like for someone's lived experience as a black person in Birmingham. But as far as our lived experience as a queer couple, it's great. And sometimes I think like cities in the Northeast or in the Bay Area sometimes feel absolved uh, of certain things because of where they are, and uh, these these smaller cities, these blue mid-sized cities, I feel like people are more committed and dedicated to the work, as they say. I feel like
Mhm.
people really try to um, to acknowledge their privilege and to understand how their privileges help them and hurt others. And I don't know. There are things that, and a type of resistance, a transformative resistance that I feel like you see in the South that you really don't see other places. And Chelsea will laugh. My wife Chelsea, uh, she laughs because she feels like people are so nice to her here. I mean, people never stopped her in Brooklyn to tell her that they liked her hair, but in Birmingham, Alabama, she will get stopped on the street by like everyone saying like, "I just want you to know that I love your hair," and it's so nice. And I think there's part of people that we know they're just acutely aware of our history and what assumptions people might make. And so they almost go out of their way, maybe even overcompensating to make you feel comfortable, which is, for your quality of life is great.
So I have so many questions. I don't know how we're going to get through this in an hour, but okay. So you use the word, I use the word gay, and you
Yeah.
use the word queer.
Yeah,
So can you educate me and the audience on what the difference
absolutely.
is and why you choose the word queer?
Yeah. So I know that queer, decades ago was like a derogatory term. I It's been reclaimed, and it's also the word that's used in academia when you're talking about, queer theory, or it's sort of like an umbrella term to encompass everything that's not, you know, the straight cisgender world. Um, I like queer when talking about myself. I identify as queer or bisexual because I'm not a lesbian. So I identify as bisexual or queer. I like both of those words.
Hmm.
Um, and when talking about Chelsea and me, I'm fine. I'm fine saying a gay couple or a queer couple because we're that. But for me individually, I like the word queer.
Okay. And do you do the pronoun? Do you, in your signature block, have you added
You
pronouns?
know, great question. I really want to, and I haven't. And I need to, and it's something that I've put on my to-do list in my mind of talking to Maynard Cooper about putting our pronouns in our signature block. I know that one of my best friends, Shruti, is at Wilkie Farr in New York, and they just implemented that across the firm, which I think is great. But I haven't yet.
Well, I will admit that I haven't done it, and I miss diversity, right? So, but I haven't done it because I don't know. It's just one of those things where I'm just not sure. It's something that I need to do. Now, if I were to do something, I would want to put on my signature block black.
Yeah,
And the reason I would want to put black is because that's how I would want to be. I want to be identified. I don't want to be called African American or a person of color or the new
yeah,
BIPOC or whatever it is.
yeah,
So, it's like if
yeah.
I were gonna like tell somebody, look, this is how you need to address me, I would use black. So I have this kind of, I know it sounds crazy, but if
I
we
don't think
have
that's
it,
great.
should we? I don't know. But I just thought I'd ask you about that.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy. I think um, it's interesting thinking about us like signaling our identities. For me, like my marginalized identity is invisible. I'm
Right.
gender conforming, so like most people when they encounter me aren't going to be like, oh, she's queer. Like I'm pretty gender conforming. I'm feminine presenting, and so people don't know that about me unless I reveal it. So I
Right.
feel like for me, I'm kind of constantly trying to navigate whether or not for the firm I'm totally out. So they know they've all met Chelsea, but in professional encounters outside of the firm with like clients or anyone I email out, I it's I don't know if I'd want to signal that in my I don't know even how I would in my signature block, but I don't know if I would want to.
Right.
It's like
Well,
something
and
that I
but the
like being able to kind of choose, which is a privilege, that I have
exactly.
um that I get to.
Exactly. You have a choice, which brings me to the question about the firm. So when you were going through on-campus interviews, when they still had that,
Yeah.
and trying to decide, because I'm sure you had a myriad of options because you're brilliant and
Oh,
beautiful and all that. Did you take into account how the firm would react, especially since you're not outwardly queer, right? So, was that something that you factored in? Did you tell them up front? How did that transpire?
totally. So Maynard Cooper didn't do on-campus interviews at Georgetown. So I had to seek out firms in Alabama that I was interested in. Uh, I think I remember like Googling, best firms in Alabama, and Maynard Cooper, um, in my opinion, is the best firm. It's up there at least with some other great firms in Alabama. And so I got the interview after my grades came in, and I I knew, they're interviewing me, but I felt like I was also interviewing them. Like I wanted to work somewhere that knew how to respond to queerness, who that like cared about diversity at the firm, that knew that diversity makes a better firm, a more successful firm, that invites better business. And I wanted to work at a firm that would signal to me that they wanted me not in spite of that part of my life, but that it's a value add
Hmm.
to the firm, to the culture at the firm. And Maynard Cooper did that. I mean, I didn't really know how anyone was going to how anyone was going to react, but I went into those interviews unapologetically myself, which again, I want to acknowledge that I'm a white cis femme, and I have a lot of privilege that makes me feel safe doing that.
Hmm.
And I felt safe doing that. And I know that I'm lucky to have been in that position in those interviews. But um, Maynard Cooper reacted beautifully. Everyone I interviewed with knew what everything to say. I mean, they directed me to people on the diversity committee. I was passionate about pro bono work, and they followed up with me about the different pro bono work that they did. They asked at that time, Chelsea and I were not even dating yet. I mean, I wasn't. Um, Honestly, Merle, I think I was dating a man at that time, and I was still kind of out to them as queer, and they were great. So it was definitely part of my decision in picking a firm. I wanted to be somewhere that I felt um, like I added value when I brought my whole self, not just part of me.
That's awesome. So, okay, I'm listening to you, and I know you. So I'm picturing you, and I can only imagine, especially now that you are out, and you're married to a woman, the stereotypes that you must have to like fend off. I mean, because what y'all can't see on this podcast is that Carmen is beautiful,
Oh,
and
stop.
so no, it's true, and so I can only imagine like the kind of advances and things that you might have to deal with men, um, and I
Oh man.
talk to me about how how you deal with the feelings and stuff associated with all that.
There's stereotypes on one before they know that I'm queer, everyone assumes that I'm straight or that if I'm married to a man. Um, then once people find out that I'm married to a woman, um, the assumption then is that I am a lesbian and I'm not attracted to men. Um, so then, in addition to that, though, it's like, well, especially before Chelsea and I were married, which I feel like is this like protection or something. But before it was like, oh, well, um, that doesn't mean you're not interested. I mean, it's like it's,
It's like
it's
you haven't met
every,
me yet. You haven't been
yeah,
with me
exactly.
yet.
I mean, it's everything you'd expect that, like, that it's an invitation, that it's, it's ridiculous.
Now, your mother is a retired judge, correct?
She is. She was a family court judge in Mobile, and she was appointed when I was 2, so she was 32, so young, which is crazy.
Wow.
And she just retired after 26 years. I guess she retired a couple years ago. 26 years on the bench, and now she does divorce mediation.
Okay. And so what if any, 'cause, and I know your sister went to law school and I think it's a practicing lawyer as well. So what
Yeah.
is your father a lawyer too?
Yes, yeah. I know. I told myself I would never be a lawyer, and then here I am. But yeah, family of lawyers.
And so did that's another potential area of privilege, right? That you grew up with two parents as lawyers. You probably
Absolutely.
heard that those conversations at the dinner table. How do you think that helped form you and your decisions going for the decisions that you made about your education and your career?
Yeah. It's a massive privilege. I think especially to have a mother, not just an attorney, but a judge, to be able to uh, I mean, I for the longest time, Merle, uh, I mean, it I think I found out when I was 6 years old that men could be judges too. I'm serious, and my mom had introduced me to, like, another first grader's dad and said that he's a judge with me, and I told her, "No, mama, only girls can be judges." And
That's
so just
awesome.
yeah. So I think to be able to have representation so close to you, not just like in movies, but to have it in my own household, to be able to never to never question that it was possible for me to really do whatever I wanted to do in my life, is a huge privilege and one that I probably can't even, I can't imagine not having it. So um, I feel really lucky for that. And my mom, her father he passed when I was younger. He's Puerto Rican and came to the States when he was 14. And I know with all 4 of his kids that he gave them uh, like very little options of what they could do. I mean, it was either you went to med school, law school, or you became a CPA. So I think, and it was his kind of coming to the States and wanting his children to have a certain path of success. And so my mom picked law school and did really well. And they didn't have the same thing with Camille and me. They were supportive of whatever we wanted to do, but I think there was part of them too that wanted us to have a degree um, that that was versatile. So I'm I'm glad that I went to law school, but I know how enormously lucky I am to have had parents who who pushed us that way and who allowed us to see our futures in this kind of career.
So how how would you describe your authenticity and how how do you feel that it's made a difference in your professional life?
So I feel like my desire to pursue my authentic self um, is, I mean, personally, it's the reason I got to marry my favorite, the best human in the world, Chelsea. That every hard conversation, every difficult moment in that journey to figure out who I am and to really to live authentically led me to a place in my life where I would um, feel confident and see a future um, with whoever I fell in love with, and then I led me to Chelsea. Professionally, I feel like when I think back on those interviews with Maynard Cooper, and to be able to bring my whole self into an interview room, I think it helped me in that I could see a future at the firm. I could um, see myself being happy at the firm, and I think it helps. We know it helps the firm too um, to have diverse candidates come through the doors and stay there.
Okay, so let's talk about something a little bit more fun.
Okay.
You started an organization called the Bevy.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I started with my friend Britt Blaylock, and uh, I Britt and I actually met in New York City, like what feels like a million years ago, but probably like 10 years ago. And she was living there at the time. I was dating someone in New York when I was in New Haven, so taking the train. And I met Britt, who is from Gulf Shores, Alabama, and I'm from Mobile, Alabama, which is like 45 minutes away. And we stayed friends for the next 5 years or so. And so when I moved back or was thinking of moving back to Birmingham and was interviewing at Maynard Cooper and then ultimately working as a summer associate there, Britt was one of the only people I knew in Birmingham. She had moved back to Alabama too. And one thing that I had always had, for the past like 6 or 7 years being on the East Coast, was a robust queer community in college at Yale, and then in New York and in DC. It was just a big community that would have happy hours and just a vibrant nightlife. And I got to Birmingham, and you look around, and you don't want to like generalize or stereotype people, but I'm like,
But
you look like family, like you look like you might not be straight. And so I was looking around and thinking like, come on, like we can't be the only people here. And so Britt and I, we texted, the few people that we knew and then told them to text the people that they knew. And we had a happy hour that was like 25 people. It was small,
wow,
but it was great. And then we named it the Bevy, and we made a Facebook group, and then it became like 100 people. I went back to law school because had to finish my third year, and Britt kept it going every month, a happy hour. And then when I got back, we uh, co-led it, and now it's exploded into, I think our Facebook group has over 2,000 members. I'd have to check. But I mean, just
wow.
a huge network. And when we were doing happy hours, which we can't do anymore because of COVID, um, we'd have like 60 to 70 people come. So it's a social and professional network for queer women and then trans and non-binary people of all genders and sexuality. Um, so uh,
And
it's
so is it purely a social club, or do you plan on doing anything uh, you know that is community based or to help people or
Yeah, so Britt and I have so many plans, and this year was going to be like um, our big year for a lot, and then coronavirus kind of threw a wrench in all of it. But we've always seen the Bevy; it has so much potential. I mean, it's literally just a, a way to um, connect a lot of like-minded or similarly situated people, and create that community. So we we've had uh, fundraisers, and we've done things to benefit the community, but it's been predominantly a social. The skeletal structure of it is a happy hour every third Thursday, and then because you've got all these people connected on Facebook, there are tons of things that happen outside of that, like
okay.
bike rides and movie nights and small fundraisers and spin-off groups for sober people in the group, or for, there's tons that can happen off of it. And we'd love at some point to incorporate, or to do more with it, but we just haven't been able to this year. But we've started chapters across the Southeast, which has been awesome. So now it's not just Birmingham, it's Memphis, Nashville, Mobile, New Orleans, Huntsville.
There's so many questions I could ask you, and we can't talk forever. Do you have any fun or illustrative stories that you'd like to share with our audience to give them an idea of how to deal with stereotypes, but remain, be your authentic self?
I was thinking about this question, and I have, there's so many stories because I work in product liability. So like I represent companies who um, who are facing allegations of a product being manufactured defectively or designed defectively. And so sometimes we'll have these inspections, like after a tank explodes, for example, I might get sent to an inspection by myself. And
Uh,
Merle, I am always the only woman, and definitely the youngest. So it'll usually be like 15 older white men ready to do this tank inspection. And then I walk up and someone has asked me if I'm someone's daughter before. And, it's like, I mean,
You're
it's
like, yeah, I
funny.
am, aren't you?
Yeah. So it's funny. And I think I just try to laugh it off. But then I'm like, no, I represent, XYZ company. And so then they're kind of surprised. But, uh, it's funny. I think I do try to fight stereotypes. And one thing that I've noticed, and especially in Southern firms, I think a lot of firms have the kind of boys club culture, and Maynard Cooper has done a good job of fighting that. But there people love Alabama football and they love
Mm,
hunting, and there definitely there's I get it's a stereotype that a woman is uninterested in those kinds of topics. And like, it's not they're not with me particularly, they're not wrong. Like, I don't think I would choose to talk about Alabama football over something else, or hunting over something else. But I do have my um, antlers from the first deer I killed when I was 14. I have my antlers in my office as a conversation piece, and to fight that stereotype, just because it drives me crazy.
good for you. The one that I always deal with is the golf conversation, right?
Oh my God, yeah,
Because it's always assumed that a woman does not play golf.
absolutely.
And if you do, you're not good. And
Right.
uh, neither are true for me. I do play golf and I am
And I'm
good.
sure you're so good.
And so it's always, really funny to, be part of a conversation and then, have, figuring out how you're going to, in a funny
Yeah.
way, let them know that that was a really, that you're making a generalization, you're making a stereotype. So let me correct you there.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you just reminded me of a story, and this was not at Maynard Cooper. I truly believe, would never happen at Maynard Cooper, but it was a different firm that I worked at for a summer. And an older partner walked in, and I shared an office with another summer associate who's a man. And he walked in and he just started having an entire conversation about golf with my office mate. Did not engage me once. Didn't I mean, I'm literally 3 feet away. I'm
Right.
looking at them. I'm not acting like I'm super busy. Didn't even look my way. And I grew up, my dad would take us playing golf every Sunday. So, I mean, every Sunday in high school, I think we stopped when I was like a junior or a senior, but we'd go as a family every Sunday and play golf. I'm not great at golf, but I enjoyed it. I can talk about it. And I interrupted him or I commented on something about golf, and he turned to me and he said, "You played golf?" And I said, "Yeah, my dad used to take me every Sunday." And then he said, "Did he think you were a boy?" Isn't that terrible? I mean,
Oh my
this was one of the many
goodness.
reasons I wasn't going to work at this firm, but I was like, you know, what in the world? I mean, just crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. that's that's a great place to end.
God.
No, I don't want to end there. I do ask this question of everybody. So what role does diversity, inclusion, and equity play in how you walk through your life?
Such a great question. And I feel like, I mean, equity, the idea of like working to eliminate barriers, recognizing the privileges that you walk with every day, and the ways that those privileges can perpetuate the barriers. That feels like, it's not like a book you can read or a podcast you can listen to. It's like life work. And so I feel like it's something that I want to be part of my life's work, not just not just professionally, even though I really appreciate having conversations with people at Maynard Cooper about diversity, inclusion, and equity, but also like in my personal friendships. I want my deepest personal, authentic relationships to be diverse. Like I don't want my f- all of my friendships to just reflect me and myself and my life back to me because it we are better when we are exposed to different perspectives, different life experiences, and I think that we create a more fulfilling life when we really embrace it and engage with it. So, from my friendships to like my Instagram feed, I know people talk about diversifying your Instagram feed, making sure that I'm seeing content not just from people who look like me, having
Right.
content from Black and Brown trans folks, from different types of people, and I also think about it in like my consumer behavior. Like I want my consumer behavior to reflect those values of caring about equity and putting um, my money where my mouth is. So I I feel like I have a lot of work to do. I think we all have a lot of work to do, and it feels like it's just it's a journey. It's not just um, a book. It's something that we have to dedicate a lot of energy to throughout our life, and I hope to be doing that. So it's very important to me, and and I just am always trying to be better.
Well, all I can tell you is that I can't wait to watch you on the rest of your journey. I have no doubt that you're going to do amazing things and that you and Chelsea are going to have a beautiful life together with a gorgeous family.
Oh,
And
Merle.
and one of the things that I appreciate so much is the fact that my daughter, through my daughter Taylor, I have access to such amazing young people like you, and a lot of your other friends, and I just want to say thank you
Well,
for
I
for Carmen for being here to BS with me today.
well, it's been so much fun, and I feel so lucky to have you in my life because of Taylor. And honestly, Chelsea and I are just gonna try to have our family be half as beautiful as Taylor and Zach and the boys.
Well, thank you. And thanks to everyone for listening. And until the next episode, remember that everybody is different and different is good.
Hit it. That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
We hope you enjoyed the stories shared in today's episode of BS, Beyond Stereotypes. Join us next time when another authentic personality unleashes their uniqueness on the world.